Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to talk to you about 3 October releases that I got review copies for that either just came out or are coming out next week, and I just really think that they fit the Halloween vibe. All of them kind of fall into the thriller genre in very different ways. Also stay tuned for the end of this video. I will announce the winner of the 2K giveaway, so I mean, you can just skip through if you are like me and you just kind of want to know and then you go back and watch it. You can totally do that. That's fine. So let's get into the books that I want to talk about. So the first book that I want to talk about is Amy Chelsea Stacy D by Mary G. Thompson. Yeah, that's a mouthful of a title, but the names kind of make sense in the context of the story. Now this just came out on October 11th. I received an e-arc of this through Penguin Random House, their First to Read program, which is a very cool program if you guys want to check out. A cool way to receive arcs of books that are like big name books. This was mainly appealing to me, A, because yes, it has my name in the title. You can't go wrong with that. Also, it has a really creepy baby doll on the cover, which it's not a creepy baby doll story. Like, it's not a haunted, disturbing baby doll story, but the dolls kind of play an important role in the story. Also because it's kind of a morbid curiosity read. It definitely sounded very thrilling and psychologically disturbing, so me being me, that was appealing. So this book follows Amy, who was kidnapped with her best friend / her cousin Dee back when they were 10 and 12 years old. And we pretty much start the story off with Amy coming back home as Chelsea and being kind of reacclimated into her normal life 6 years after this. So she is now 16 and Dee should be now 18, but she comes back alone. So obviously we want to know what happened to her, where she was, and where Dee is. And as the story kind of progresses, we start to find out more and more of what happened, but Amy pretty much doesn't want to tell what happened. She wants to keep something hidden for a very important reason. And so the entire story is kind of the investigation being reopened 6 years after they were kidnapped to find out what happened to them and if Dee is still out there, how to get to her. So because this is a psychological kind of horror thriller, I don't want to give too many details out of fear of spoilers because this is one of those books that you just kind of need to experience. But I will say that this book is gruesome. It's very uncomfortable to read at times. It was kind of reminiscent of the book called Room by Emma Donoghue that I read a couple years ago, just because it deals with a very similar subject matter of children being kidnapped and held hostage and dealing with very adult things that they can't quite interpret because they kind of know what's going on, but they don't really know how to understand it or cope with it. So for that reason, this book has a lot of trigger warnings for rape, just all around adult content, so be warned of that. This is one of those YA books that I think transcends the YA genre. Just because the main character happens to be a teenager does not mean that it is teenager friendly. This is one of those books that I think could very easily be shelved in the adult section just because of the content and how graphic it gets. But it does follow teenagers and is written in a very simple manner, so I think for that reason it falls in the YA genre. I gave this book 4 stars. It definitely kept me on the edge of my seat and kept me guessing the entire time as things were starting to be revealed. It got more and more messed up, which kind of holds your attention a lot more. So I'm gonna highly recommend this if you want a really disturbing psychological thriller for this Halloween time of year. The next book that I want to talk about is Fear the Drowning Deep, and this is by Sarah Glenn Marsh, and this also came out last week on October 11th. I received a copy of this from Sky Pony Press, so thank you Sky Pony Press. We are taking a completely different turn from the first book that I talked about. We are going to 19th century Ireland, basically. This is set on the Isle of Man, which is a really teeny tiny, completely cliff-faced island off the coast of Ireland in England, and this is the most atmospheric book I've read in so long. I just was completely thrown into the lilting Irish Gaelic, old-fashioned pub town, cliffside, fisherman town, and it was just so what I needed. In this book, we were following Bridie, who has a serious fear of the sea, which obviously does not bode well with her living on an island because she's completely surrounded by the sea at all times, has constant reminders of it. And this fear is pretty well earned because she witnessed her grandfather jumping off a cliff when she was a young girl and killing himself. So obviously, that's a well-earned phobia. We follow Bridie as she is kind of dealing with her fear of the sea, and also as she is taken on as apprentice for a kind of recluse old hag in the town that everybody says is the witch, but nobody actually has any proof of that. She just kind of is like the fairy tale witch in a town. She's just like an old recluse hermit. And while she's apprenticing with her, she's starting to uncover some odd things about the island. Also, a whole bunch of girls start to go missing. And in a very small town, this is a very rare occurrence and a very big deal. And Bridie seems to be the only person who seems to think that it's not just a stereotypical they ran off with a lover or something. She thinks it has to do with the sea. This is even more confirmed when a handsome fellow washes up on the beach who has no idea who he is or where he came from, but he is badly injured and her family takes him in to care for him. Hint, a romance develops, go figure. But this starts to unravel a lot of the mysteries, and I just loved the take on this. Not only was it so culturally immersive, but it was so interesting to see a very different take on, like, paranormal stuff in YA. This is not your stereotypical, like, vampire or werewolf thing. This is very old school folklore, Irish influence creatures that I didn't really know much about, and it was just so cool to see the, like, myths that go on in different cultures. So for that reason, I loved this book. I just could not wait to get back to it. It was so, again, atmospheric. I just loved it. It was so cool. So I gave this 4 stars. I want to go on to read everything that she writes now. If it is that dang good, I highly recommend it. The last book that I want to talk about is A Darkly Beating Heart by Lindsey Smith, and this comes out on October 25th, so very soon. I received this for review from Macmillan, so thank you, Macmillan, for sending this to me. This is taking a completely different turn. These are all very different stories, but kind of have a very similar ominous, mysterious vibe to them, which I really liked. In this book, we are following Raiko, who is a very angry, suicidal, bisexual Japanese-American girl. We are covering all bases there as far as diversity goes, who gets sent to Japan to live with her uncle and her cousin and work with her cousin, who is an aspiring J-pop star, to kind of deal with her issues and work through any suicidal tendencies that she has. While we are in Japan, we follow her cousin and her whole entourage of people, including Raiko, to this very old, remote, kind of old-timey type town where a music festival is being held, which is why her cousin wants to go there. So Raiko just follows right along, just grumbling and angry. She is an angry person. Like, she is a cutter and definitely has vengeful, suicidal thoughts. So be forewarned, there's a lot of trigger warnings for suicide and cutting in this book. But she is just an angry, angry girl. And throughout the story, we start to kind of see why, like who has wronged her and who she wants to get revenge on. But while we're in this town, Raiko gets transported back to 19th century Japan into the body of Miyu, who is a very similar character to Raiko. At first, Raiko thinks that her antidepressants are just messing with her, or she's just like hallucinating or something, but she slowly starts to realize that this is actually happening, and she tries to escape into Miyu's body just because she kind of likes being somebody else in a completely different time frame, in a completely different culture at that point, until she starts to discover that Miyu is even angrier and even more dark, dark girl than she is. So obviously this is going to set the tone for kind of dark and ominous things that are going to happen in this town, both in the past and in the future. So that kind of sets up the mystery. So what I liked about this is how real and raw the characters are. They're definitely not flowery. They're very unlikable, to be honest. Raiko is an angry, angry person, and it's kind of hard to read from her perspective at some points, but it's very real. I also really liked the Japanese influence in this. I learned a lot about Japanese culture and about Japanese terms. There's a lot of Japanese language that's thrown in, so you kind of learn a lot of phrases while you're reading this. But it was another very culturally immersive story in a completely different way from the other one. So I gave this 4 stars, so definitely check this out when this comes out next week. I think you guys will really enjoy it. It's very dark and very ominous for the Halloween time. So those are the 3 books that I want to talk to you about, all very different, but all very mysterious and kind of really good books to sit down and just kind of read on a rainy October day. So I hope you guys enjoyed those reviews, or that they piqued your interest. Now getting into the giveaway winner. So the winner of the giveaway is Rihanna Reads. I will try and get in touch with you either through YouTube or Twitter or whatever info you happen to have on your page. I will try and contact you. If you do not hear from me in the next day or 2, that means I failed at that, and try and contact me. My email and all my information is listed down below. but I will try and reach out to you so that I can get your address so I can send your book out to you. So congratulations, and it means so much to me, so thank you to everybody who entered, and I hope you guys all stick around. I hope you guys like my channel. So that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you are reading some amazing books, and I'll see you guys next time.